Welcome to Mind Body Monday, and thank you all for joining me. In today's session, you're going to learn the single most powerful tool to treat, reverse, and cure hundreds of diseases. Yes, I know it sounds like one of those wild claims, but just hang in with me for a little bit, and you'll begin to put the pieces together yourself. I'm going to share with you the single most powerful symptom that plays a major role in many chronic illnesses and weight problems. And then I'm going to share with you 2 ways to find out if you are allergic or sensitive to food items. And this is a big topic that I'll be covering today as well. And hang on for live Q&A at the end after I've signed off. I'm going to keep on for a few more minutes to take some questions on the topic for today. So just before I kick off, especially for those of you who are new, I'm very excited to announce the long-awaited launch of my new Heal Your Gut program. The weekly Mind Body Mondays are where you will learn about the mind-body connection, about its relationship to the gut, immune health, brain health, mood issues, general health, on a really general educational level. Although, that being said, many people have taken on some of the advice and suggestions from Mind Body Monday on their own and have done incredibly well. However, in my new Heal Your Gut program, it's designed to take a deep dive for those who want to really get to the bottom of their health issues. It's an 8-week intensive journey where I will address healing your gut from the inside out. And it's not really for everybody, this program. It's really only for those who want to get next level health, next level skills, and to go further faster, basically. You'll get lots of guidance in a supportive online community. I'll go into very specifics about exactly what foods to eat, what foods not to eat, to avoid the common mistakes when people begin to heal their body, which you're going to learn about those today. Also, you're going to learn my favorite strategies to calm your mind, settle your emotions, and relax your gut. And all this is mediated through the vagus nerve, which I'll go into detail on that program. One of the most important things I'll also cover is how to manage flare-ups and how to really prevent them from happening in the first place. So it's really for those who are ready to make a commitment to heal themselves from the inside out. And you'll know you're ready to invest. You'll know you're ready when you are ready to invest in yourself and make those choices to really advance your health and well-being. So if you are ready, or you're thinking about it, or you just want some more information, go ahead, type in the chat, gut health, and I will get back to you in the ensuing weeks with some more information. The Mind Body Monday series will continue, but the exact how-tos with a lot of guidance will be on that program. So go ahead, type in gut health into the chat now, and I will be in touch with you with some more info. So for those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Avraham Gundle. I'm the founder and director for the Center for Integrated Medicine. I'm trained as an osteopath, and I practice functional and integrated medicine. And over the last 30 years in private practice, I've been privileged to help a wide variety of people heal and recover from chronic health challenges, be it gut issues, autoimmune issues, weight issues, mood challenges, thyroid troubles, etc. So I generally like to begin my Mind Body Mondays with a story from my practice. And this one is hot off the press. Just today, I got a WhatsApp from a patient of mine who said, Avram, do you mind if I have a friend reach out to you and send them, send you their blood test, and you can just, have a look at it and tell him what you think? So I said, of course, go ahead, send it. And then she wrote, oh, by the way, he's 34 years old with no symptoms, but he does have minor digestive issues as well as sort of lack of energy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share with you the screen and show you his blood test. Now, You don't have to have a medical degree to understand blood tests, although I encourage all my patients to learn the language of blood tests. I personally have an annual checkup from top to toe as part of my health program. Obviously, if anything comes up between the beginning and end of the year, then I'll deal with that. But a lot of my patients, especially the health nuts, say, no, we don't believe in doctors, we don't believe in blood tests. And I think they've gone too far, but that's just my opinion. So let me share with you the screen, and you can get a sense of, if you're familiar with blood tests and how to read them, that's okay. If you're not, I will guide you through them. So let's have a look. I've shared my screen with you, and I'm looking over to the side because I've got two screens. And what you're looking at is, obviously I blanked out the person's name and information, but he's male, he's 34 years old. And if you begin to look through the blood test, one of the first things I look at is the glucose levels, which is 84, which is outstanding for a 34-year-old. It's very, very good. Most people begin to have that creeping up to 95 and 100. I like all my patients to be well below 90, and that's one of the first things I will look at. Hemolytic index tells me about the general health of the red blood in general. And then for those of you who are newbies to blood tests, you can just look in the remarks, and anything that is really out of these brackets on the left here, either to the left or to the right, is generally problematic. And you may not necessarily understand all of these things, but I'm just going to give you a quick window into how I look at things. Now, when you look at cholesterol, most people know by now that cholesterol above 200 needs to be looked at. So this lab says 120 to 200 is normal, and this guy has 173. So you'd think, wow, that's really good. And the truth is, it is. But wait, there's more. Then we look at his HDL, which is the healthy, good cholesterol in general, and LDL, which is the bad cholesterol in general. Now, his HDL is 38. Now, the American Heart Health Association showed that when you take total cholesterol and divide it by HDL, you should have you'll have a ratio. That ratio must be about 3.5 or below. Now, if you do the math on this person's cholesterol, his comes up to over 4. I think it's 4.5 or something like that. So even though his total cholesterol is great, his HDL, which is the cardiovascular protective part, is extremely low. So this would be a first sign that I would want to address this balance by increasing his HDL, because this will help his longevity and cardiovascular protection. As we continue down looking at his blood tests, we look at here remember he complained of mild fatigue. So we're looking at his iron levels that are very, very low. Remember, 65 to 175 is acceptable. 38 is where he is. Transferritin, this is also storages of iron, and that is also low. So the first thing we see here is iron deficiency, and the question in my mind is, what's driving this? Does he have anemia as well? Don't know. We need to continue our journey. So we continue and we look at some hormonal panels, how he's managing stress levels. DHEA, I'm not going to go into that right now. TSH is really important. It's the general thyroid stimulating hormone. It gives me a sense of where his thyroid is up to, and that's okay. Although there's another test I do in the clinic that's more accurate and picks up metabolic differences in the thyroid that blood tests don't pick up. So that's something that I have to inquire to make sure that this reading is good. Now, this is where things get even more interesting. CRP. CRP stands for C-reactive protein, and it is an inflammatory marker. And you'll see that it is out of the charts here. On the right, his reading is 19.4. It should be between 0 and 5. I like to have it as close to 0 as possible. Now, if he were to come and see me, I would do further inflammatory tests, blood tests to see the nature and where this inflammation is. This is a general inflammatory marker. So this is a red flag for me. And his vitamin B12, even though it's sort of just off midway from normal, I like to see it around 880, 850, specifically if he's complaining of lethargy. Vitamin D levels is 28. It should be at least 50, in my opinion. And I'm not going to go through his red and white blood cells, but I'm seeing here he's very much under functioning. His red blood cells health is not super healthy, and his immune system is not vital. So let me just remind ourselves about his text. His text to me was, let me just pull up his text. Here it is. His text to me was, he 34-year-old with no symptoms, but he has digestive issues as well as a lack of energy. So what I'm hearing in this, he has no symptoms. What this means is he's learned to live with his fatigue, with his lethargy, and with his low minor digestive issues. And he's 34. Things, if they're not managed, will generally spin out of control. That's my experience. I could be wrong, but life is busy. There are many moving parts to our lives, and things can get stressful. And the first thing that goes is a minor symptom develops into something more major unless it's cared for and dealt with swiftly. So this is, I sent him back in a chat, the comments that I made to you about cholesterol, HDL, his low iron, and which I'm calling iron deficiency without anemia because his hemoglobin was 14, which is really good. And the CRP at 19, which is an inflammation sign, which means that something is out of whack. Now, because there are no major bells and whistles going off here, most doctors have about 8 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes with a patient, unless there's a major health crisis showing up in the blood, or major symptoms that the doctor feels they need to go to the emergency room. This kind of blood pattern is left with no comment. And this is where functional medicine really, really comes in, because we take the time to look more deeply, understand the ratios, understand the interactions, look for the hidden clues within blood tests that begin to highlight underlying patterns. And I see a lot of this in my patients. In fact, most people come in feeling lousy with normal blood tests, and I just have them send me their blood tests so I can begin to have a look under the hood a little bit deeper to understand some of the dynamics that are going on. So most people just have learned to live with their low-grade health issues. So in his mind, he was okay. So let's ask ourselves, what's really at the root of all of this? What's at the root of this low-grade lethargy, fatigue, weight gain, and in his case, minor digestive discomfort, which I don't really know what that means or how that shows up in him because everyone's different, but that will need further inquiry. So I'm intrigued, I'm curious, what's at the root of this? I'm always learning and researching and finding more. And when I was reviewing the medical literature, an obvious pattern began to emerge. And over the last 50 years plus, even maybe 50 to 75 years, a whole host of really chronic, serious, unrelated diseases are coming to the fore. Cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, autoimmune conditions, cancers, brain disorders, and all of these have been rising at alarming rates. Now, while people may be living longer, many people are suffering more throughout that extended period of time. And I'm always keen and curious to figure out how people can feel great and live longer at the same time. So a key principle of functional medicine is looking at the gut, surprise, and how it impacts the entire body. And if you've been following me on Mind Body Monday, you're going to understand exactly why that is so important. So I'm going to touch on that briefly today. So all of the diseases mentioned above have some component of gut dysfunction, especially something called intestinal permeability, leaky gut syndrome. In fact, in my Mind Body Monday 2 weeks ago, I went into this a little bit more deeply, and I showed a lovely video, a 2-minute explainer video, showing exactly how this works that even my kids could understand. So briefly, how does this work? So when the digestive system is inflamed, food particles that should remain in the digestive system find their way into the bloodstream. And this triggers inflammation, and the body goes into sort of a fight mode. And this goes well beyond stomach aches or irregular bowels or symptoms, general symptoms like that, but it can trigger remote issues like mood disorders, anxiety, depression, even autism. And this is because the microbiome gets out of balance, and from that, then the whole gut becomes inflamed, and this leaky gut syndrome occurs, and food particles or undigested things go into the bloodstream where they really shouldn't be, and this stimulates this whole immune inflammation thing. And this can lead to allergies and eczema and arthritis, autoimmune diseases, aches and pains, rashes, chronic fatigue, dementia, and cancer, and many other things. So it's so important to have an intact gut membrane, because I mentioned 2 weeks ago that our gut is basically, even though it's inside our body, it's really the outside world until a healthy gut permits digested food and amino acids, etc., into the bloodstream properly without prematurely leaking into the immune system. So today, you're going to learn really the second culprit that's linked to everything, from chronic diseases across to obesity, and even these chronic diseases of aging. Really of aging, I say that, although over the last couple of years, I've seen children and young adults coming to me with obesity, arthritis, prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions, the ages of 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. There are lots of reasons for that. We're going to address some of those today. So I want to give you some of the keys to unlocking this problem and to really giving yourself the gift of vital health in mind, body, and soul. So I want to just focus a little bit on inflammation, which is really the topic of today, and what you can do about it is really the most important piece. So most people are familiar with inflammation in general, pain, swelling, redness, heat. Even if someone's just, sprained an ankle, there's inflammation. Now that's good inflammation. It's the body's way of protecting that joint, sort of splinting it so there's not extra movement. And that's a healthy, wholesome thing until you can get it checked out and for further evaluation and treatment. However, and also inside the body, there's all sorts of inflammation going on all the time. And this is a good, wholesome response because it stimulates something called cytokines in the body and an inflammatory process that stimulates the immune system and keeps things active. However, when this goes out of balance or gets unchecked or goes unchecked, then things go awry and go south quite quickly. So when this imbalance occurs, then this low-grade inflammation, like this person's blood test showed us, he has got the CRP, C-reactive protein, that's at 19, which is not too bad, but he's 34, and it didn't happen like that overnight. And if he doesn't attend to it, my experience is it's just going to creep up because it's not being attended to. It's just like your garden. I always tell my patients, when you're born in general, you've been gifted this gorgeous garden with fertile soil and gorgeous flowers and fragrances and all sorts of things growing there. And then most people just go away on holiday and check out and don't pay any attention. No sunshine, no fertilizing, no tilling the soil, no weeding. And then the weeds grow and overtake and throttle all those beautiful flowers. And that is a little bit like the health situation. We've all been gifted great health in general, and people don't take care of it. So all the weeds take over. That's just the natural course of things. But the good news is when you come back from holiday or you wake up and you begin to tend to your garden, it really doesn't take long. You just de-weed, refertilize, hydrate, and within just a matter of days or weeks, there's beautiful flowers beginning to grow again. And that's exactly how it is with the gut, with the body, to reverse inflammation, begin to heal. And you start with micro steps and building together a consistent program of what I really call self-love. It's that analogy. I was just in the UK last week going off to a wedding of a dear friend and flew on 3 flights within 75 hours. And I'm just always reminded of that cabin pressure drop in-flight safety video or demonstration. And it's, take your oxygen mask first over that 1 week, 1 month baby all on your lap. Because even though they can't help themselves, if the mother or the father or who's ever caring for them is not taking care of themselves, that baby for sure is going to suffer. So part of Mind Body Monday is handing over the keys in a general way to invite you to begin to put on your oxygen mask, tend to your garden. That way you'll be able to reverse and disease and heal your body every day over the passage of time. So let's get back to when the immune system shifts out of balance. Then there's this chronic low-grade smoldering fire inside the body that contributes to every disease under the sun and weight gain and inflammation, etc. And one of the drivers of this is undetected food allergies. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But just before I do, there are a number of other factors that drive the inflammation. Last session, I spoke about the 80 plus names that sugar has and how sugar plays a major role in driving inflammation. High doses of the wrong oils, the canola oils and the processed oils are very inflammatory in the body. Hidden food allergies, I'm going to come to that shortly. Lack of exercise, chronic stress, poor sleep, hidden infections like dental infection or foot fungus and things like that people just get used to, but they irritate the body. They irritate the body and keep it occupied there. So when something else comes up that's even more bothersome, there's a dilution of resources, and that foreign invader gets away most of the time. So let's look at what I think is driving one of the major drivers of inflammation. So in my practice, I've seen that hidden food allergies and sensitivities are a big issue. And when most people think of food allergies, they generally think of something extreme like a peanut allergy, where someone ends up in the emergency room with swollen tongue, hives, not being able to breathe properly, etc. Now, this is really what's called an IgE, hypersensitivity reaction. It's a serious condition, but not common. That's why some of these people who have these sensitivities walk around with an EpiPen, etc. That's not the focus of today. However, there's a different kind of reaction altogether. And it's much less dramatic, but very insidious and still very troublesome. And this is what I'm going to be calling delayed allergy, or IgG mediated hypersensitivity reaction. What this means is it is a reaction a person has a food substance and they don't have an immediate reaction. It could be a day later, it could be 24 hours later. It could be a few days later after that as well. And it's generally not focused on much by conventional medicine, yet in my experience, it plays a huge role in chronic health problems and weight issues as well. And this delayed reaction can cause indigestion, fluid retention, fatigue, anxiety, brain fog, irritable bowel issues, headaches, joint pains, and it will generally exacerbate any condition a person has, like arthritis or an autoimmune condition or whatever it has to be. So it's so important to identify if there are hidden allergies and what they are. Now, this is what I wanted to share with you also. In my practice, treating food allergies and improving nutrition is probably the two most important tools I have really to treat, reverse, and cure most diseases. Because remember that the substance of our bodies, our bones, our eyes, our teeth, our hair, our skin, our flesh, our organs, our very cells are made from the foods we eat. So if a person is eating consistently lousy foods or foods that inflame the body or irritate the body, then the substance of the body is going to get irritated. The cells will be irritated, and that will translate across the entire body-mind situation. So most people don't realize that about 125 million Americans today suffer from some sort of chronic disease. What that means on a technical level, that on a family of three people, let's say average family of three, according to the research, that means 1 out of these 3 people have some sort of chronic inflammation. Could be a postnasal drip, could be a low-grade migraine, could be consistent belly aches, could be joint issue, could be a weight issue, whatever it is, depending on their age, how much toxicity they've absorbed over their life, or whatever their health issues are. So what's the key question here? How do you reverse it? What can you do about it? I'm going to share with you some of the patterns I've noticed in my clinic, and please hear me out. This is general patterns. There are many nuances and tweaks, but my work is to point out patterns like I saw over the last 50 to 75 years of medical research. What has just come out is quite shocking, really. So these are some of the patterns of the last sort of 30 years in practice, is that there are certain food groups that I've seen and experienced. And the truth is, I sometimes experience that myself in my own body. If I'm underslept or stressed or traveling, I take extra care to eat extra clean, extra pure, with nutrient-dense eating, with all the strategies that I've shared with you over the last 6 months plus of Mind Body Mondays. By the way, all the replays are on my YouTube channel, which you can get from the chat. Just go to YouTube and type in Dr. Avraham Gundle, and each week I'm putting out the videos. There's a little bit of a delay, so today's Mind Body Monday will maybe be in a couple of weeks. But all the replays are there for you to enjoy and learn and improve your health from, if you wish. So these are some of the food groups that I see are generally problematic. And I'm just going to underscore that again. Generally, doesn't mean you all have to start now going gluten-free or avoiding dairy or whatever it is I'm going to suggest. But I'm going to share with you some of the patterns and strategies that I've seen in my practice. So that is definitely one of them. Gluten. I've seen so often, especially within, I'm going to say Ashkenazi Jews, as a pattern in general for lots of genetic reasons. I've seen that gluten tends to bother most people if they have a health issue, specifically foods that are laden with extra gluten, like bagels. There's gluten in wheat, barley, rye, and spelt. Certain oats, because of cross-contamination, may also have gluten, but those grains, again, are wheat, barley, rye, and spelt, all contain gluten. But a food like bagels have added gluten to it, which makes it yummy and chewy, and so popular. But for people who are on an anti-inflammatory program, that would be a no-no. So gluten is one of those. Then people who, the other food item is really dairy. It's milk products, it's cheese, yogurt, etc. Those are also generally inflammatory for people who have any kinds of symptoms. I've also seen corn is an issue. For some people, eggs. For some people, soy. For some people, certain nuts. Again, this is just general categories, but it's good to know about this. Now, there's a group of foods called nightshades, and those are tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, that's peppers, all the colors, potatoes, not sweet potatoes, and eggplant. These have a certain phytochemical that I've seen in my practice causes inflammation specifically to joints. It affects the synovial joint membrane within the joint. So if anybody has joint inflammation, pain, or swelling, I would recommend for people in general working alongside a healthcare practitioner to do an experiment, and I'll talk about that shortly, of reducing that exposure in your diet. Now, I've seen from some of my patients who go on this cleansing anti-inflammatory program, so there's two components, there's reducing those foods and obviously there's the increasing the healing foods, that health challenges begin to quieten down and their vitality, their energy, their mood begin to pick up. And sometimes it could be quite quick, within a week or 2 weeks or even 3 weeks. Sometimes within a month, they could see radical changes. Let's address how does a person know if they have any food allergies or sensitivities. So medically, there's really two ways to go about it. And I'll share with you briefly a third way that I also check in my practice. And there are other ways as well. And one way is what's called the IgG antibody test for foods. And this tends to pinpoint trouble areas, but medically speaking, it is not 100% accurate. Although people with chronic health issues, I generally recommend they do that because, again, this gives me more information. It provides a benchmark against which future testing can be done to see their improvement. The second is a little bit low tech, could be a little bit of a hassle, but no doubt this is one of the better ones. It's the simple elimination and then provocation test treatment, really, which means you get rid of the main food items like the glutens and the dairies in general. And one of the other test methods I use is bioresonance. It's also not 100%, but it gives me a ballpark along with the other tests to figure out how to what's really bothering my patients. Then I develop a picture of what works for them. And then I recommend that people will do an experiment and stay off these foods for about 30 days. Now, I do tell my patients that the red blood cells last for about 90 to 120 days. That's, 3 to 4 months. Now, this is really important to know because when people make changes, they think, well, I'm not seeing, 1 week, 2 weeks later, I'm not seeing any changes. I'm wasting my time, getting FOMO, blah, blah. It's a waste of time. But they don't realize that there's biochemistry they're working with. There's the cells in the body need time to be born and die in a blood system, immune system that's bathed with vitality and new nutrients. And things take a little bit of time. You're not going to put a seed in the garden and, a week later, like, whoops, there's the sunflower. It doesn't work like that. It takes time. So do inside our body. Things take a little bit of time. So in English, actually, a person who's unwell is called a patient, right? So people need to be patient with the healing process. And I think this is so important to get, and patient with yourself as you're learning something new and trying different things in your to help yourself. So what I recommend is having my patients at least go on at least a 30 to 90 day elimination program. And they will see me maybe once a month. We'll chat during, on Zoom or WhatsApp during the time just to check and course correct. And I've seen some remarkable changes where people begin to drop weight, their headaches clear up, their gut clears up, joint inflammation clears up, lots of different things. It's always best, really, and I mean this, to work with a healthcare practitioner so they can guide you and course correct, because there are many nuances and everybody is different. Something called biochemical individuality. Just as we all have different faces, so too our insides are all different, and we all need help in different ways as well. So let's do a quick recap, okay? So identifying hidden cause of allergies through what I'm calling delayed food allergies and sensitivities is so important. It turns off the inflammation in the body, and it accelerates healing and promotes vitality, longevity, so you can age youthfully with the passage of time. And I like to tell people that just imagine giving yourself a gift of a week-long vacation. For starters, it may be 3 months. And your body and your soul will really thank you for that, because you've turned off the inflammation, you've turned up your vitality, and you've taken one step along the healing pathway. I'm so happy we've had this time just for me to share some of these strategies that I'm finding working in my practice. And for those of you who have joined recently, I missed the intro. If you missed the exciting news about my launch of my Heal Your Gut program, it's really designed for those of you who want to take a deeper dive. It's super practical, fun. You get to learn my step-by-step approach to really heal your gut from the inside out. If you're interested, just write gut health in the chat, and I'm going to get back to you. So thanks again for joining me on Mind Body Monday, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And just remember, Mind Body Monday is where self-care is the heart of healthcare. All you need to do is take one small step in the direction of health and healing for your body, your mind, and your soul. Thank you. See you next week.